did the Premier League's First Lady Susanna Dinnage do a radical U-turn over taking top job. It was New Year's Eve when the email dropped into the inbox of senior Discovery Network's employees, and it came from Chief Executive and President Jean-Briac Perrette, commonly known as JB. He was celebrating the retention of Susanna Dinnage, who had been about to become the most powerful woman in football as chief executive of the Premier League, and who was meant to be leaving her post as global president of Discovery's Animal Planet in the new year. In a shock announcement, which has left the Premier League jilted, Dinnage had a last-minute rethink and has said she would not be joining the self-styled best league in the world. Discovery could not contain their glee. Retaining Dinnage was a late Christmas present, wrote Perrette. But from the Premier League's perspective, it was an early New Year headache. An exhaustive search led by Chelsea chairman Bruce Buck had settled on Dinnage, 51, as the best fit to replace the unique leadership style of Richard Scudamore over the last 19 years. But even then the announcement was botched, overshadowed by the furor created by Buck's suggestion that Scudamore should receive a £5 million leaving bonus, which might be standard fare in Buck's world but seemed a prime example of the fat cat culture of money for nothing. Last week it got even worse for Buck and the Premier League, with Dinnage apparently preferring to stick around to oversee shows such as Crocodile Hunter and River Monsters rather than take on the big beasts of the Premier League. The only sweetener was that they at least will not now be due to pay headhunters Spencer Stewart their six-figure fee, given that she never started in the job. It seems clear that Discovery have been piling the pressure on Dinnage to stay once they had absorbed the shock of her departure. She is genuinely highly regarded at the media behemoth. But that alone does not explain her U-turn. With the Premier League returning to their initial shortlist in Tim Davie of BBC Studios and Tom Betts, the ITV strategy director, it may be that the job itself is proving a hard sell. Scudamore has been made an easy target over the years, not least when he was embroiled in a sexist email row and in the casual acceptance of that £5 million bonus, having previously argued for years that the clubs had found as much money as they possibly could to keep down tickets prices and contribute to wider society. But it is also true that his charisma in dealing with the multiple and complex personalities and agenda of Premier League owners appears irreplaceable. Her decision to pull out was a terrible disappointment to those of us who have struggled to show that there is nothing in football administration which should be the exclusive territory of men, wrote West Ham vice-chairman Karen Brady in her Sun column yesterday. So I was annoyed when Dinnage shied away from one of the major jobs in world sport only weeks before taking over. Scudamore always recognized that his strongest suit was the regularity, ruthless competitiveness and unmatchable sporting entertainment of his league. Like a poker champion, he played these qualities to the TV companies, the paymasters whose worldwide audiences loved their weekend kicks, but who weren't so thrilled about midweek. Still, the winnings kept rolling in. Follow that, then. Perhaps Dinnage was anxious that she couldn't carry the weight of a nation's football love and decided against going to the altar. Indeed, Scudamore has just about held the collective together, but the fraught negotiations over the latest overseas TV deal demonstrated that the task has grown ever harder. The Big Six clubs, Manchester United and City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal and Tottenham, had demanded a bigger share of that pot, which had previously always been split into 20. The new deal from next season will see £3.3 billion shared equally, but any increase will be awarded dependent on league position, so it is likely the Big Six will increase their share. And that is the crux of the challenge facing whoever takes over from Scudamore. He announced that compromise at the last annual meeting over which he presided. But with City almost certainly facing financial fair play restrictions and possible exclusion from the Champions League, with Chelsea possibly facing transfer bans and Tottenham underwriting the cost of their new stadium, the pressure to maximize income from the big clubs is only going to get greater. The Premier League's constitution means that you need 14 clubs to vote through change, meaning there is always a break on the Big Six. Their only negotiating tool is the threat of a breakaway to a World League or European Super League. Throw into the mix the machinations of FIFA pushing for a revamped World Club Cup to replace the Confederations Cup every 4 years or an annual preseason tournament and the expansion of UEFA competitions. It is clear that the challenges facing the Premier League collective look as challenging as they ever have done, as everyone scrambles to make money out of the big-name players and clubs. And that is just the opening salvo of issues to address. The rapidly changing TV landscape will make the next round of negotiations for the 2022 to 2025 deal more complex than ever. In theory, the arrival of Amazon on the scene from 2019, with Netflix and Facebook circling prime content, should be good news. But the fact that the Premier League had to retender 2 of their packages at a reduced price to draw in Amazon suggests it will not necessarily be the negotiating equivalent of shooting fish in a barrel. The Premier League has been built on a very traditional model surrounding protecting UK content to allow Sky and latterly BT to build subscriptions and broadband packages. The tech-era new media giants do not really think in terms of sovereign territory. The original citizens of nowhere, an extremely beneficial concept when it comes to tax, want global rights and access to subscriber data. That might be enough to reboot the growth of TV income, which has finally flatlined in the latest deal. But it will take a robust negotiator to play that hand well. With an inbox that will also include dealing with increased racism, the pricing out of younger audiences, the growing indignation at football's reliance on gambling income and Brexit's threat to foreign imports, the road ahead looks full of unexpected twists and turns.